A low moan hangs heavy in the air, a spectral echo that chills the marrow of even the most devout souls in the fledgling settlement of Dover, New Hampshire. It seems to emanate from the skeletal branches of the ancient oaks that line the dusty path leading to the austere meeting house. This is no ordinary lament, it's the mournful whisper of a forgotten tale. A chilling ballad of Hanserd Knollys, a man of God whose very faith became a battleground between piety and transgression. Knollys, a scholar with eyes that held the glint of a restless intellect, hailed from the windswept plains of Lincolnshire, England. He arrived in the New World seeking not riches, but refuge. The burgeoning Puritan movement, with its emphasis on strict morals and a direct relationship with God, resonated with his yearning for a life unburdened by the suffocating strictures of the established church. Yet, even in this haven, where hope bloomed amidst the untamed wilderness, a disquieting truth awaited him. He was a man not just of faith, but of insatiable curiosity. His mind, a crucible where scripture and contemplation simmered, could not be contained by the rigid doctrines of the Puritans. While they welcomed his descent from the Church of England, they were wary of the independent spirit that flickered within him. He began to delve into the tenets of the Baptists, a denomination that emphasized believers' baptism and a more decentralized church structure. This deviation sent tremors through the carefully constructed edifice of Puritan faith. Like a discordant note in a solemn hymn, Knollys' convictions clashed with the established order, his voice a jarring counterpoint to the tightly woven harmony they sought to maintain. Cast out of Boston, a scarlet letter not of sin but of dissent metaphorically branding him, Knollys found solace in the nascent town of Dover. Here, for a time, he was a beacon of faith, his sermons resonating with a fervor that kindled the hearts of his congregation. He spoke of a God both stern and merciful, a God who demanded obedience but also offered redemption. A fragile sense of peace settled upon him, a temporary reprieve from the relentless storm brewing within his soul. However, whispers, insidious and venomous, began to snake their way through the close-knit community. Whispers of witchcraft. They slithered unseen, attaching themselves to Knollys like shadows clinging to a lone figure in the dead of night. His once confident demeanor, his booming voice that filled the meeting house with the promise of salvation, began to morph into a withdrawn and haunted visage. Was he truly possessed, a puppet on the strings of unseen malevolent forces, or was something far more sinister gnawing at his soul? The townsfolk, ever vigilant against the unseen enemy, cast suspicious glances his way. Fear, a potent brew in a community built on the tenets of faith, began to simmer. The air crackled with a tension as thick as the fog that rolled in from the Atlantic, obscuring the faint glow of the newly set sun. Knollys, once a shepherd guiding his flock, became an object of suspicion, his very presence a harbinger of potential damnation. Then came the fateful Sabbath. The day dawned with an unsettling stillness, the normally boisterous cries of children replaced by an unnerving quietude. The congregation, cloaked in their somber Sunday best, filed into the pews, their faces etched with a mixture of curiosity and unease. An oppressive silence descended upon the meeting house, broken only by the rhythmic creak of the swinging door as Knollys ascended the pulpit. But the man who stood before them was a mere shadow of the once vibrant pastor. His eyes, once filled with conviction, now held a profound sadness, a weight that seemed to threaten to crush him. His voice, once a comforting rumble, emerged as a raspy whisper, choked with a torrent of emotions that threatened to spill forth in an uncontrollable torrent. A collective gasp rippled through the air as Knollys began his confession. Tears, glistening like fallen stars in the dim light filtering through the narrow windows, streamed down his face, carving trails through the grime that had settled upon his cheeks. He spoke of transgressions, of a darkness that had threatened to consume him, a darkness that he himself couldn't fully comprehend. The exact nature of his confession remained shrouded in mystery, a moral failing, a forbidden dalliance with heretical beliefs, or something far more insidious that defied their very understanding of faith and sin. He renounced his right to lead them, to stand as their shepherd. His words, heavy with despair and a profound sense of betrayal, echoed through the hallowed halls, a dirge for a fallen leader. His voice, forever silenced from the pulpit, became a haunting melody in the collective memory of the congregation. His wife, a silent sentinel throughout his ordeal, sat with her head bowed, the very embodiment of the collective grief that resonated through the room. The once respected pastor was now an outcast, a pariah banished from the community he served. Yet, the story doesn't end with his expulsion. It lingers like the scent of wood smoke on a crisp autumn day, carrying a chilling coda, a whisper that continues to torment the inhabitants of Dover long after the final word of Knollys' confession is spoken. The tale mentions two young girls, their innocence forever marred by the scarlet letter emblazoned upon their woolen dresses, a symbol of shame, a constant reminder of a transgression they barely understood. Were they somehow linked to Knollys' confession? Daughters caught in the crossfire of his spiritual turmoil? Or perhaps victims of a separate sin, their fate a stark reminder of the harsh realities of life in a community where even the slightest deviation from the rigid moral code could have devastating consequences? The answer, like the wisps of smoke curling skyward from a distant fire, remains elusive. Some whispered of a forbidden love affair, a secret romance that blossomed between Knollys and one of the girls, a transgression that shattered the sanctity of his position and the innocence of youth. Others spoke of a more sinister connection, a dark pact made with unseen forces, a pact that demanded a sacrifice the purity of these young girls, a price paid for unholy knowledge or protection from a malevolent entity. The truth, if there ever was one, vanished with Knollys into the wilderness. He was seen once, a lone figure swallowed by the dense canopy of trees, a haggard silhouette etched against the fading light. Did he seek redemption in the solitude of the forest, or was he fleeing from something far more terrifying than the judgment of his former congregation? The legend of Hanserd Knollys continues to haunt the windswept plains of Dover. The meeting house, once a beacon of faith, now stands as a silent testament to the fragility of belief and the devastating consequences of suspicion. On nights when the wind howls through the skeletal branches of the ancient oaks, some claim to hear a mournful cry, a plea for forgiveness echoing from the depths of the forest. Is it the tormented soul of Hanserd Knollys, forever seeking solace for his transgressions? Or a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk even within the hearts of the most devout? The answer, like the fate of the young girls and the true nature of Knollys' confession, remains a mystery, a chilling whisper lost in the annals of forgotten tales.